Hello, class. So this is part 2 of day 2 of lesson 9.1.6. We just went over problem 972 and talked a little bit about that. And now we are going to be looking at problem 973. Now 973 wants us to build a unit circle. And so you should have a resource page. And then we have these different points that are shown along the unit circle, and we're going to be starting in the positive x-axis, so above, and then we want to label the exact coordinates for 3 of the points shown in the first quadrant. Now 3 of the points, well, I'm going to refer us back to 72. We looked at 3 points just now. Why don't we use those 3 points? Be really quick, really easy for us to label these points. Now, so we can draw our triangles. And so I will put in a different points. And actually, let me change the color so we can see some difference in colors too. And then a third point, and let's do a little different color here. That changed colors on us, so we'll just change it back. Okay. And so we got these 3, and if we were just to a quick drawdown, right, we were getting 3 right triangles. And now you don't have to necessarily draw the right triangles in, but we do want to label these points. Well, this point right here in the middle, right, that's the 45 degrees, or in radians, that is pi fourths, and we saw that was the square root of 2 over 2 and square root of 2 over 2. And then over here, our x value, right, this would be our 30, 60, 90 triangle we're looking at. This base is longer than our height, and we have a square root of 3 over 2 over 1 half, right? And so that is for pi 6, right? And this is our pi fourths, and this line here is our pi pi thirds. And a pi thirds, this point right here is located at 1 half and the square root of 3 over 2. So as far as labeling the exact coordinates for the 3 points shown in the first quadrant, well, there's 3 points. We just have labeled them based off of our work in 72. Right, so we had pi 6, pi fourths, and pi thirds over here, and we're able to use this information to label our 3 coordinate points. Now, of course, there are other points we can label. We're just not doing that at this time. But now, as we move on to part B, mark all other points in the unit circle for which you know the exact coordinates. Not all of the points are shown. Label each point with its angle of rotation in radians and its coordinates. So, using the same, let's try to use some of these same colors. And we'll label the different points. And so we have roughly speaking, we have this 45-degree angle, or the pi fourths, which would be over here, and down here, and then we can also and then I'm going to change, and now we got this, right? This was our pi thirds, and our mirror image, we have a mirror image there. We would also maybe have a mirror image like that. Correction. We'd have kind of mirror image like that. It's approximately, right? These lines aren't exact, but hopefully we're getting the idea. And then we will make a few more lines for these other ones, and we want some darker blue, and so right, and so hopefully seeing the color coordination helps us to see kind of where these are as far as in reference to our reference angles in our first quadrant. Now we want to label these other points that we do know, and these really won't be too difficult to label if we really think about what's going on, right? And in the first quadrant we have x and y, and both of them are positive numbers. In the second quadrant we have x and y, and we have a negative and positive number. In the third quadrant we have an x and y, and they're negative. Both of them are negatives. And then in the fourth quadrant we have an x and y, and they are positive and negative. And so basically we can just take these coordinates and just change the signs based off of the reference angle. So over here we'll have a negative 1/2 and the square root of 3/2, and that will be for here. And also something else we want to do is also make a determination of how many radians this is right here. So remember, this is 60 degrees. So this is going to be 120 degrees. And so, right, so if we did a quick conversion, 120 degrees times pi over 180 degrees, that's the same as 120 pi over 180 degrees. Right, degrees cancel out, the zeros cancel out. 6 goes into both of these, so we get 2 pi thirds. So if we wanted to label this in radians, this would be 2 pi third radians. And you can continue doing this along the whole unit circle. So that's what I'd like you to do. We have these reference angles. Label all of the rest of these angles. Find out how many radians these are also, not just in degrees, but what other radians, and go from there. And once you have that, right, you'll have finished part B, and right, in part C, basic says if you haven't done so already, label those corresponding angles in radians. But hopefully you're doing those as you go along, and then you can move on to doing 74 and 75. Now hopefully this will kind of give you a jump start on what you need to do. I know it's kind of between both of these videos, it's going to take up about half the time, but hopefully it's a good jump start. And I'll see you guys on Monday, and look forward to seeing you guys again. Bye.